Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Acadia After Dark podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Redbeard. I am sorry for the late upload here. We did have a whole episode on Thursday that somehow or another did not get saved. So I wanted to throw something up to just basically be a space filler. Anyways, hopefully everybody's having a good one. Those of you out on the West Coast, I hope you're staying safe out there. It's been pretty scary to watch. I'm hoping the worst of it is under control. I'm recording this on Monday. But our thoughts are with you out there. Anyways, we've this past week wrapped up Acadia After Dark Season 1, with our final episode being the finale where we discussed Acadia itself and Bar Harbor. So we had a lot of stuff in that episode, kind of scattershot one, because the thing with Bar Harbor is there's so much history there. There's kind of everywhere you look, there's something. And honestly, talking to the people that know more about it than me, I'm barely even scratching the surface with what we've just covered. So I think there's going to be many, many parts when it comes to Bar Harbor and Acadia itself, because that was really just the in-town proper Bar Harbor stuff. And I don't even think that was all of that either. Though we did talk about some of the haunted trails and things like that, so that was kind of a divergence. I did enjoy getting to research a little bit about the town. I got some new reading material because I did finally get my copy of Ghosts of Acadia, which had some of the stuff that I was referencing because I remember reading it a long time ago, and then I lost my copy of it, either in transit from moving, or it might have gotten damaged a couple of years ago when I had a little bit of a leak in my basement that ended up destroying a bunch of my books and movies and stuff like that. I had to chuck it all out. But I finally got a copy again, so I'm going back through that, working my way through it slowly. I've got a couple of things that I've been reading through. I've been reading Nomar Slevic's UFOs over Maine, since that's he just released the 10th anniversary version of that. Excellent book, by the way. Probably the best when in regards to UFO phenomena in Maine. Then we had, along with that, I started a new series, which was the big announcement the other day, that, or one of the big announcements the other day from the previous podcast that didn't get saved, and that was just basically what I'm doing. As some of you may or may not know, I have a background in what they call metrology, and basically metrology is the measurement of things using scientific instruments. So I kind of want to apply my knowledge of that to paranormal research. And the main reason being is I see a lot of different paranormal investigators all have their own techniques for things, but over time it feels like as technology has advanced, people have been using more and more high-tech gadgetry, and I kind of want to focus on that and see what of it is viable. What's the what's the likelihood that you're actually going to be able to use it? And if you do use it for paranormal research, how do you know it's actually picking something up that's paranormal or something that's outside of the norm rather than something that's simply environmental? And that's kind of where my expertise comes in, because with my work, as part of my day job, I spend a lot of time calibrating equipment. I spend the time working with different types of equipment, usually in a biomedical setting, but I've also done plenty of stuff that uh, could definitely pertain to this, more engineering stuff. So I think that there's definitely a space for that sort of expertise when it comes to paranormal research. And I don't know anybody else, honestly, that talks about that sort of stuff in this field. My own thoughts on it are is if I were out investigating and I didn't know what my equipment was capable of, well, how do I know that I'm actually using it properly? And I do remember, anecdotally, of course, back early on, probably as a lot of people that listen to the show probably and other people that are interested in the paranormal always watched Ghost Hunters when I was younger. And as a part of that, I remember one episode, and it was years ago at this point. Honestly, it could have been their second, third season, maybe a little later. But I remember one episode in particular where Jason Hawes, they always had all this equipment that they used and brought with them, a lot of it being cameras and things like that. But I remember one day Jason Hawes, when they were investigating somewhere, they had brought out a little watch with a that could take the barometric pressure. And when he explained that he had a theory that there was a correlation between barometric pressure changing and the presence of paranormal phenomena, that always kind of stuck with me. And so later on, as an adult, when I got into the field of metrology, it's something that's always kind of been in the back of my mind is those type of instruments. Like if there's some way that we can use the most state of the art equipment in order to advance paranormal research, I think that if we're going to do that, we have to have the same sets and standards as other fields would, which means that it needs to be replicatable. We need to know that the instruments being used are accurate, and we need to know what the efficacy of it is. So, in addition to all of that, if we don't look at just the tools that ghost hunters and paranormal researchers now use, because that stuff can be expensive, what else can I look at and see what's viable and what's not? So, one thing that I see a lot of people using, and I'm not going to name names, and I'm just going to say that I'm not a fan of them, but I see a lot of people using smartphone apps, various ones. I think there's like a ghost box one. I used one the other day called Ghost Hunting Tools. That was an Android one. And I see different people using these for a variety of purposes in regards to paranormal research. And honestly, I personally am very skeptical about whether a cell phone app could be used for it at all, especially where probably 90% of them you see say entertainment purposes only or something to that effect, right? So I don't really have a lot of trust in those as where they're just usually free cell phone apps. A few of them you might have to pay a couple of bucks to use, but they're usually not too expensive. But from the ones that I've been testing, I was interested to see what might end up being something that might work. And if not, maybe we can find out ones that do or have purposes that they could be used for. So the first one that I did the other day went up, and that was just on the Ghost Hunting Tools app. So if you haven't already, go check that video out. I think some people that are into the paranormal sciences will be interested in them. And if you have any ideas for any apps or tools that I could check out myself to kind of rate and review them, let me know, and I will definitely take a look at them. But moving on, we had more stuff about the Bar Harbor and Acadia ghost hunts. So one thing that I was hoping to do before the episode, and I was unfortunately unable to schedule it, and that's partially on me because we've had some kind of hectic weeks around the new year up here. But I wanted to meet up and just interview one of the people from the Bar Harbor Ghost Tours because they do excellent work and they're all very knowledgeable about the hauntings on the island in particular. And when I say the island, I'm specifically referring to Mount Desert Island. It's basically Acadia, the surrounding area. So I was hoping to have gotten to have a quick sit down with them before this episode was completed. Unfortunately, that didn't line up, but I do have them scheduled to sit down and have a chat next week. So hopefully by the time that let's see, the next episode, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, hopefully I'll have something that we'll be able to throw into the podcast episode. And I think everybody will enjoy it. They seem to be very knowledgeable. They're very nice people. I went on the ghost tour once, a few years back, and it was very fun. I'm hoping to get to do it again this summer because it's been a while and I'm sure it's probably changed and gotten better. Honestly, every time that I go to Bar Harbor, I grew up there. So every time I go back and I visit it, I just get this overwhelming sense of nostalgia. And then I remember all the stories and stuff like that that I was told when I was a kid. And I see all the settings and stuff. And granted, over time, a lot of them have changed. The town has undergone a lot of transformations in most recent years. Really went from like a little fishing tourist village to where now I'd say it's like kind of like a hipster mecca. It's kind of funny. There's a lot of coffee shops and nice restaurants and a couple of theaters, plenty of shops, things like that. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great place to go on vacation. Unfortunately, because of the um, freedom or the amount of ships and stuff that come in during the summer, it makes it kind of hard to go and play tourist there if you're a local. But if you're from out of town and you ever come visit, it's beautiful. But aside from that, the Acadia and Bar Harbor area is, as I've said, it's incredibly haunted. There's more hauntings than I could possibly have fit into one episode. So it's going to be a multi-parter. And there are going to be some areas that are going to constitute their own episodes simply because there's so many stories around it. There's a couple of places that I stayed personally that I have a little more to, look into. And I'm still trying to verify some of the stories that I came across because some of them, if the location has changed hands or has changed names, it does make it kind of hard to track it down. And that's the case of a couple of places that I specifically wanted to put in an episode. And one of them I straight up cannot find any mention of it. And I know factually it was there, but I'm still looking for the actual, like, name of the owners or any real information on the property itself prior to 2011, Um, aside from that, though, the Bar Harbor Ghost Tours covered a lot of the places that I mentioned in this first episode, which is part of why I wanted to talk to them. So you have like the Compass Harbor Inn, you have Balance Rock Inn, the Bar Harbor Club. These are all larger places that are all historically relevant to the town's tourist industry because a lot of them they basically like were built early on in the town's development and are still open to this day. Which is not to say that their newer places aren't equally as haunted in some cases, because there are definitely some newer establishments in town that seem to have some weird stuff about them. But I think it's more the land and the island itself just seems to, there's something about it that seems to attract this. Now, I have heard one theory to that, and it's mainly that there's a version of pink granite that you really find on the island, and it's probably one of the only places in the world that I've ever heard of has this quantity of it. So there's some theories that maybe there's something about the granite that holds residual energies. Now that's a spiritualist theory, obviously hard to back up with scientific, instrumentation and things like that. But hey, if I ever figure it out, y'all will be the first to know that. And with the surrounding area outside of Bar Harbor, the woods out there have trails upon trails upon trails, and there's stories to so many areas in there. We have a place called Witch's Hole, which is another place that's probably going to get its own episode. There's Eagle Lake, is a very popular destination. We have several other trails that, aside from like the Compass Harbor Trail, which is a very well known one, the Precipice Trail that I mentioned in the episode 10, that trail, I remember doing that trail, hiking it when I was probably like 14 or so. I hiked it with an older cousin of mine and a friend, and it's an incredibly difficult and scary trail. Like honestly, I made it up it all right. Coming down was terrifying because you're basically just looking straight down a slope. And I don't handle heights very well nowadays, so I know factually I cannot investigate that trail again. I'm just never gonna make it up there myself. But if anybody comes to the area, that's one that if you're into challenging climbs, that's one of the better ones on the island. I can say that much. And there's parts of it that you can climb pretty comfortably, like with a moderate experience. There's a couple of spots to it that you need to know how to rock climb if you want to go up certain trails. So keep that in mind. But aside from that, honestly, I've said before, like the park and during the day for all the scenic views and things like that, like when they close it down and after hours, it really changes the whole vibe. And you look at the island in a different light. And that's part of why the Acadia After Dark moniker is stuck with me. Not only because it sounds catchy and kind of roll off the tongue for me, but it definitely. I remember when I lived on the island, or when I would go to Bar Harbor and I would walk around, and I would just being in the town. There's something about it. It has an aura to it. It's something you don't see elsewhere. So it's gonna be one of those places I'm gonna keep coming back to in the story, and I really hope that people, if you haven't checked it out, make it a point to. I surprisingly find out a lot of people that I follow on social media and stuff like that have come here and visited, and either if they did know it, what the place was all about, then they were surprised to find out that it was more than they expected. And honestly, every person I've heard talk about this place has said it's really a magical place. So it's near and dear to me. I think that it's going to be a big part of the show going forward. I plan on definitely talking to the Bar Harbor Ghost Tour people. If not this next coming episode, it'll be definitely the following one. All goes according to plan, which ties into the next announcement that we had. So I was on Blue Sky the other day. So we have kind of an upheaval in social medias right now with a lot of people are repositioning themselves to try and find the platform that keeps them engaged but also not incredibly toxic. So this past week we had some stuff. Meta seems to have kind of had a little bit of a exodus because the owner made some comments that ruffled a lot of feathers, and they changed some policies that a lot of people disagree with. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of that here, but the effect of that was is that a lot of people that were previously on places like Facebook now ended up in other places. I've been big on Threads for pretty much the entire time that Threads has been an app. I've been a fan of a lot of the communities that have been built on there, and it's still one of the better places for actually like discussing things and engagement. But if the moderation tools go away, it's going to become harder and harder to keep it that way. And it's more likely to become like X as, formerly Twitter. which I still think is funny. 2 years later, we're still having to say X, formerly Twitter. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. I think most people are aware of like the situation with X and have started to kind of move away from that platform. Last year, Meta became kind of the alternative for some people, and now that seems to be shifting in some people's opinions. I'm not going to say it's like a massive number, but I've definitely noticed a significant shift. But one that seems to be catching and picking up the slack on this is Blue Sky, which I've been on there for a while. Took me a while to get on the app, took me longer to get into the app, but it's pretty decent community over there, and I've managed to meet some very nice people. And on uh, earlier in the week, um, I was talking to somebody about the new. Hold on. Yeah. I was talking to somebody about how TikTok is going away. It's apparent it's going away. I won't necessarily know until the day it actually closes down if that's actually going to be true or not, but I know it certainly seems like it's not going to last much longer. I think the 20th is the official shutdown, or the 21st. So most people have been discussing like where else are we going to go. So I think Blue Sky right now, as far as the social aspects of it, is going to end up being where several people land between the two. But the problem with Blue Sky currently is their video platform is absolutely abysmal. Like there's just basically no functionality to it at all. That being said, there are some really cool features to it, and I'm not going to go too in depth, but one thing I really love on Blue Sky is it's incredibly easy to find people and engage with other people of similar interests. Between lists and the starter packs, which I think honestly, like if you're running a social media platform and you're not using one of those or both, then you're kind of missing an opportunity. Nonetheless, I was approached by Tim Banal, who, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I believe I am. If I'm not, he'll correct me, I'm sure. I was approached by him, and he actually recently asked me if I'd like to appear on his show. So I'm going to be, I think we're recording on the 20th, so that'd be Martin Luther King Day. I don't know when it'll particularly air, but I'm super excited to have a chat with him because I am familiar with his work. I've listened to Coast to Coast for a long time, and I've listened to his podcast for a minute. So I'm definitely excited to get to chat with him. I thought that was a pretty fun, cool thing because honestly, like engaging with other content creators is going to be really a big focus of the show in between seasons. I want to get more people on the podcast if I can, and I want to guest on other people's podcasts. So if you want to be on the show, reach out to me, and if you want me on your show, definitely hit me up. I'd be into it. And that, we're almost to the half hour. I'm not going to go too much over a half hour because I already did the hour-long live stream the other day where we had a bit more content. We did a talk about pareidolia and stuff like that, and I'm actually going to probably just um, put together a video about that sometime in the next couple of days and upload that. So be on the lookout because that's going to probably land on the paranormal research stuff on the channel, which is going to be considered separate from Acadia After Dark. Obviously, the Acadia After Dark is going to be more the informative and narrative piece, and we're gonna that's gonna be probably March will be when I'll start rolling out some news about season two. It'll be a bit. I was gonna try February, but honestly, I think what I want to do is get all of the episodes recorded first and then start releasing them. So I'm gonna give myself the window until March to make that happen. And other news, we are going to hopefully, knock on wood, we're going to hopefully see some changes to the production of the videos going forward in the next season. I've got some new tools that I'm working with, and I think it's going to really make a big difference in the presentation and telling the story. And that's kind of what I really want to do, is tell some good stories next season. I think you're going to be excited. In addition to that, we also have hold on. Oh, yeah, yeah. So the last episode of the season there, I had already wrapped it up before I was able to finish the audio for the next part that I wanted to announce. But as of today, you will be able to go over to Spotify. And as of right now, on Spotify, you are able to find the last 5 episodes in one volume. It's about an hour and a half long. You can listen to it all in one sitting, or it's time stamped so you can go ahead and listen to it in sections if you want. So you'll be able to listen to the audio versions of the last 5 episodes of Acadia After Dark on Spotify as of today. And if you do, let me know, because I'd be very interested to see what people thought. We did some different things this last half of the season compared to the first half. If you went over there and checked out the first half, you'll probably notice quite an improvement in the audio quality on this new season. Not to say it's perfect, still a work in progress, but I think we're coming along nicely. So you'll find that pretty soon I am going to break them down into the single part episodes and upload those each separately. But this is just kind of to get it out there, so if you're new to the show, you can get caught right up. And if you're an old time listener, then at least you have the opportunity to listen to the entire thing over again with slightly better quality. And while you're there, please do, drop us a rating and everything. This episode will be uploaded there shortly. So you'll probably hear it tonight or tomorrow. And then when you're done, just go ahead and listen to the rest of the season. I think you'll enjoy it. So that's just about it for this week. We will be back live on Thursday. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Do stay safe out there, especially if you're on the West Coast. I know it's pretty apocalyptic looking out there. I've seen so many pictures and videos, real and fake. I'm kind of hoping people will straighten their shit out, because we don't need the AI generated videos of wildfires when we have very real wildfires just burning all over the fucking place nowadays. Anyways, I do hope everybody out there stays safe. And honestly, out here, I always say, keep your lanterns lit. Unfortunately, that only works here in the park. I do hope they have something out there like that for y'all, because you definitely need some sort of help. And hopefully it's there for you. Anyways, if you haven't already, go and hit us up on the socials. You can find us at Acadia After Dark, and we're on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads for now. We'll see if that sticks around. That in Instagram. TikTok, we're on there currently. I just had my first video that went over 3,000 views and a bunch of likes. The comments are unhinged, my lord. The Christians found me, and they are going wild on my sky trumpets. Holy shit, I have never seen anything like it. The most unhinged stuff I have seen on any of my posts so far. It's kind of funny, but oh my god. But yeah, it looks like TikTok is going to be going away shortly, so we'll probably not be posting anymore on there, unfortunately. It's just, if it's going to die, it's going to die. That being said, we will still keep up with Instagram and Threads until the ship sinks. YouTube will be the place for the shorts. The long form content will definitely keep coming there. Look forward to more of the videos on testing apps. I'm actually in the process of testing one right now that I'm going to probably upload later in this week. And we'll also have some shorts content coming up, because we've got some of the ones on the cryptids that I wanted to break down for you. And Look forward to Thursday, because if I get an opportunity, I'm going to try and do some fun stuff that day. Since we don't have an episode to discuss this week, we're going to try and go over some other content and see if we can debunk some stuff. So, anyways, I hope you all stay safe out there, keep your lanterns lit, stay spooky, and I will be back with you soon. Thanks for listening.